What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to Bourbon of the Week. My name's Chris. I'm going to be your host for today, and we have some fun things coming up on the channel here. Our Blue Note Juke Joint pick with Chris from Whiskey Noobs will be dropping in the next couple of weeks. If you want first access to that, check out the Patreon link in the description below. We also have a little logo rebranding going on, as well as some cool merch that we're eventually going to drop, but I want to make sure we have everything lined up with that. Today, we have Elijah Craig A123. I know most of you guys are probably already working with B523, but at the end of the day, we're here in Pennsylvania, so we can only get samples of A123 because I'm pretty sure we're still working with B522. So let's pour this up. Let's try it out. This is just for the video and the thumbnail. This is actually B517, which was one of my favorites. But everybody knows before we get started on all of that, time for the traditional sip. Cheers, y'all. Wisdom glass is cool. So here we go, ladies and gentlemen. This is Elijah Craig A123, and this just may be the end of the 12-year-old age statement when it comes to Elijah Craig barrel proof. We'll talk about that a little bit more during the Bourbon Bomb of the Week. This comes in at 125.6 proof. This is 78% corn, 10% rye, which leaves us with 12% malted barley. This runs you about $70, and we're going to talk about drinkability on this first. How's the ethanol when it comes to this particular glass? We got to be careful with this particular review because we do only have 2 ounces to work with. Shout out Troy and Lisa for sending this up. Wouldn't have an opportunity to try it without them. I usually avoid these multiple release type of things, but I did want to get this one under my belt knowing that it might be the last 12-year-old age statement on this. And I do have to say, for 125.6 proof, it's pretty damn easy to drink. I will say this, for a while there, I was drinking nothing but higher proof whiskey, but as of late, I've been starting to mix in some of that middle proof, as well as that lower proof stuff as well. I felt like, because I was drinking nothing but higher proof whiskey for a while, it kind of watered down everything in that lower proof range, so when I revisited it, I might not have liked it as much as I originally did, and that's not fair to the whiskey just because I'm drinking nothing but higher proof stuff. So now that I'm doing a little bit of a combination of everything, I'm kind of keeping my palate happy with everything across the board. But this glass right here, for 125.6 proof, is pretty easy to drink, and we're going to give it a pretty damn good score when it comes to drinkability. One more sip, even though we only have a little. Yeah, I mean, I gotta say, this is very easy to drink. Normally when you're drinking something, even when you're sipping it, it'll hit that nasal cavity, it'll hit your sinuses, it'll kind of make your eyes water a little bit, or the back of your throat kind of clench up a little bit, and none of that happens here. And again, with only having 1 glass of whiskey before that, I don't think that's affecting anything when it comes to my palate. This is gonna get a great score. Let's go, I'm gonna say high 8s for this one, like 8.76 when it comes to drinkability on this glass. And up next, that's going to get us into taste on this next, and that's where I'm kind of back and forth on this particular bottle. It's Elijah Craig Barrel Proof. I didn't always love Elijah Craig Barrel Proof. It definitely started to come around a lot more recently when it comes to my particular flavor profile, because I'm starting to appreciate more of those older age statement stuff, more of that oak, that tannin influence, and that's what I'm getting on this particular glass right here. I get all the flavors that I normally love from something coming out of Heaven Hill. You get that Heaven Hill nuttiness. You get like a raspberry or maybe a strawberry, definitely a fruit influence on this. You get some dark notes on this with chocolate. You definitely get that oaks, and then you get those tannins as well at the end, which really dry out my mouth a lot more than I particularly like, which is why I'm back and forth on if I love this, hate this, or it's somewhere in the middle, and I'm thinking I'm leaning somewhere in the middle. I will say this though, there's nothing off-putting about this particular glass right here. Every one of the flavors is so well blended, it's so well balanced. There's just a few that I don't like particularly, especially that tannin on the end of this. I will say, if you pick up this glass and you enjoy tannins, chocolates, oaks, cigars, a little bit of that age influence that you're really looking for in a glass of whiskey, this is going to be for you. For me particularly, I love the rye spice you get with this. I love that nuttiness that you get from Heaven Hill, and I love that strawberry, that sweetness influence that you get off the beginning of this. So because of that, we're going to go somewhere right in the middle with my number when it comes to this particular glass with taste. We go 8.0 if it drinks right at its proof when it comes to drinkability. I obviously went closer to 9 because I do think this drinks very easy. We go 7.0 if it's an average tasting bourbon. I do think this is slightly above average, and I think if we drop those tannins at the end, it would be even better when it comes to my particular palate. So we're going to go right above a 7 when it comes to taste on this. Let's go like 7.26 when it comes to taste on this glass. And last but not least, we're going to talk about price on this bottle. And this particular bottle comes in at $70 MSRP. And what can we hate about this bottle at $70? I think it's still one of the better values on the market today. We're talking Heaven Hill. We're talking 12-year-old age statement for now. We're talking 125.6 proof. There's nothing I can really knock about this glass at that price point. Great drinkability, very good taste if you like this particular flavor profile. There are a lot of bottles that we've talked about recently that could easily price gouge. I think this bottle is one of those that could bump this up to that $99, $100 price range, and nobody would bat an eye because of how good they have been. If it has a 12-year-old age statement, let me make sure I clarify that. One more sip, we'll give it a score when it comes to price. All right, 2 more sips. I mean, with everything else that we've recently reviewed and the price points on those, BEP, 2XO, Innkeeper's Blend, barrel stuff, Bardstown stuff, I will say this is a very good value in bourbon. If it had a little bit better of a taste profile for me personally, and let me say that again, for me personally, I think I would give this a even better score when it comes to price. But for me, I'm going to say like mid-8s. Let's go like 8.47 when it comes to price on this. But listen, while I pour the rest of this up, let's send it over to this week's Bourbon Bomb of the Week and learn a little bit more about why I keep talking about the age statement on this particular bottle. Cheers, y'all. So for this week's Bourbon Bomb of the Week, let's take it back to the basics here on Bourbon of the Week. And I am very glad that we can do this because this is kind of how I got my start in the whiskey YouTube community, was talking about the basics of bourbon, and we've grown together to this particular point right here. This is Elijah Craig B517. It has a 12-year-old age statement right on the side. This is a sample of Elijah Craig A123. This does not have a 12-year-old age statement because it's just a sample bottle, but the bottle that it came in does have an age statement and it does say 12 years old. Now, if you happen to have an Elijah Craig B523, you might look on your bottle and not see a 12-year-old age statement. Instead, you might see 11 years and 5 months. Now, an age statement on a bottle is very important, but it doesn't tell you the whole story. The age on an age-stated bottle is the youngest whiskey in that batch. This particular bottle right here is still a small batch bourbon, which means they take a bunch of barrels. We don't know what small batch is defined as, so it could technically be anywhere from 2 barrels all the way up to 2 million barrels. There's no real definition on it, but it is a multiple amount of barrels poured into a vat, and then they bottle it into these small batch bottles. So if they take barrels that are 20 years old and mix them with barrels that are 4 years old, the age statement on that bottle has to say 4 years old. It cannot say 20-year-old because it doesn't tell you the oldest whiskey in the bottle. It tells you the youngest whiskey in the bottle. So the youngest whiskey in this particular bottle is 12 years. The youngest whiskey in this particular sample is also 12 years. And the youngest whiskey in the next series of the B523 is 11 years and 5 months old. Now, the real question, the real debate becomes, how important is that? First of all, how important is those 7 months when it comes to a particular whiskey? And how important is how much of that is 7 months less than what used to be in the bottles before it? Was it 20-year-old whiskey mixed with 15-year-old whiskey with one little drop of 12-year-old whiskey? I highly doubt it, but at the same time, they would still have to put 12 years old on that bottle. So 11 years, 5 months, 12 years, I don't know if it's going to make much of a difference when it comes to somebody like me who's not really refined when it comes to a particular age statement and saying this has got to be 12 years old or this tastes like this. And I also think they're becoming so good at the blending process and so good at figuring different things out to make the whiskey taste better that I don't really care about the age statement that much as long as the whiskey still tastes good. But I got to know what you guys think about that. So comment in the comment section below if you care about age statements, if you don't, and if you have a range, because I do believe that 10 to 12 year range is right where I fall when it comes to my favorite age statement. What do you guys think? Whew, that was a mouthful. And if you don't know what we're doing here on Bourbon of the Week, we are doing our top 10 list of 2023 as we go. We don't even have 10 whiskeys on the list yet, but this particular bottle falls in at an 8.16. Elijah Craig is definitely working its way up into some of my favorite whiskeys when it comes to their barrel proof. I do think it is a great value when it comes to bourbon. I am interested to see if they keep dropping that age statement, or maybe they get rid of it altogether and then we don't know how young the whiskey is in this particular bottle. But for right now, with the A123, 8.16 is where we're going to sit. But hey, if you haven't clicked that like or subscribe button, why don't you do that for me right now? I would greatly appreciate it. I mentioned at the beginning of the video, we have some very big stuff coming out here on Bourbon of the Week. We have a Blue Note Juke Joint pick. The best way to get involved with that, join the Patreon. It will go through that first. If it makes it through the Patreon, then the Discord, also that link in the description below. Then I will put it out to the public, but I can't guarantee it between my community as well as Chris from Whiskey Noobs community. We might not get past the Patreon and the Discord, so make sure you join at least one of them to get a shot. Make sure you check me out on Instagram at Bourbon of the Week. Go click that follow button over there. Almost at 10,000 followers on that. Absolutely crazy. I already talked about the Discord and the Patreon. Please click that like and subscribe button. Don't drink and drive. Always drink responsibly and stay healthy, stay happy, stay drinking. Cheers, y'all. Should we finish it? Might as well. Thanks, Troy.